So welcome to the Node.js Node API team meeting for August 9th, 2024. We'll follow our standard approach of going through issues that were tagged for milestone 11. So let me just get there. Milestone 11. Share screen. Okay, there we go. So before we get started, any announcements? Okay, if not, then anything on sort of our driving to full coverage, enable debug testing, SQLite 3, or the NAPI experimental messages?
To be honest, I'm tempted to just drop the SQLite 3 stuff. Like I'm getting
Okay,
no traction. So I mean, they
okay,
asked for help. I gave help. If they don't look
sure.
at it, then you know. I'll keep the PR open and refresh it every once in a while, but I don't think it should be
Okay.
on our agenda.
So I'm gonna say we should we keep this issue open or close this issue too?
That's what I'm thinking. Like let's just
Yeah,
take it off the agenda because like the PR is still there, so there's still kind of a stake in
right.
the ground.
I meant
Um,
more like, should I just take this off the agenda or
oh, I see.
close
Yeah,
the
yeah.
issue?
I think just take it off the agenda.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to take it out of milestone, clear this milestone. Okay, sounds good.
All right, we're nearing completion on milestone 11.
There we go. Okay, any of the other ones we should chat about? Okay, if not, I'm going to flip over to stale issues, and I don't see anything new there. So let's go over to the issues. Yeah. For requests. So this one I took a look at and approved, and I see Chenzong had a few questions, but and Vladimir, you've chimed in as well, so that's good.
Yeah, the latest is just like a comment on the docs
Yeah,
and whether some forward declaration is necessary. I'll
okay,
investigate that. Um, but for the most part, yeah, it's
okay. So just a few tiny question things to comment on so far, and I don't know, Gabriel, if you think you'll have a chance to take a look. So oh,
Yeah, I've started reviewing it.
okay,
I've already left a couple of comments, but they're still in like preview, so I submit them all at the same time. But yeah, it's in progress.
okay. So good to
Looking
know. We
looking
won't
good.
land it. We won't land it until those show up then.
Yeah. I'll do it right after the meeting.
Yeah. Okay,
yep.
there we go. And Shenzong just arrived, so that's good.
You
Um,
know,
Go ahead.
if Chengjiang can host next week, then we don't need to go through all those hoops today with the password recovery and all that.
Sure.
Um, I might have a comment changing next week, so I might not be able to make it on time. So yeah, next this time.
All right, hoops it is.
Okay. Okay, so I'll look at issues. I think the only one which is new is this one, and I can see Kevin, you've already uh chimed in.
Yes, I guess I wanted to maybe bring this up because so if you go to the original post,
Yep.
the what the user says is that they've got a bunch of methods and they don't necessarily want to create all of these instance methods or whatever. And this was kind of similar to one of the approaches, like at first asked like why do they not want to do that? Is it because of code duplication or they don't want a lot of accessors on their class definition or whatever? But if you scroll down for the first part, the immediate next comment, somebody mentioned that they have a wrapper that does some sort of automatic generation. So that's a good suggestion for, minimizing boilerplate of code that you write. But if it is to not have so many methods on the class instance or whatever, for whatever reason, that would be where I had suggested using proxy. But that sort of brings me back to thinking again of what Vladimir had sort of worked on, like 2 years ago or something. And that was originally because somebody had requested a feature to know what method was being called. So looking at, trying to figure out what this user wants to do could be, maybe it could be solved if Node API had a way to know what method was being called. Like maybe the two are linked somehow.
Is
So
it,
to have some kind of proxy-like native object, right?
is what you're thinking that you could then like have one C function that checks and that does something different depending on which method it's being called from?
Yes, I think that was what the original intent was for the issue that Vladimir was sort of working on. If you open back up the milestones, I think we can find we can find it there.
It is still one of these outstanding issues. I have provided tests how to use proxy from C-based API, but I still didn't do it for C++, and I was thinking that it probably worth to add maybe some additional APIs.
Yeah, that's fair. What I want to go to is the original issue, which we can. So if we go to the stale issues,
Okay,
yeah, there are the stale issues
yep.
issue.
Stale, right,
Yeah.
okay, stale.
Yeah, they're trying to move from none to
And it'll be the
no.
last one, that one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we could have just went. So what is the original post here asking to do? See, yeah, it's another instance where they don't want to declare every single setter and getter method in C++, which is exactly related to what that new post is. So now it's two users that have asked for this feature. I'm wondering if there are other people that have, but are doing a workaround using a proxy. Like I'm wondering if it's something to add on our
Just,
radar.
just for my clarification, are we talking about interceptors here? I think V8 has something called interceptors
Yes, yeah.
where,
This is
oh, we're
intercept.
talking about interceptors. Okay.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
So I mean, we need to expose that in core, right? Uh, which is fine. Uh, we can expose interceptors in core, but we need to study how many engines support interceptors because I don't think there's any way to emulate that if you don't have it. Oh, well, yes, there is. You create a proxy object and you maintain a proxy object in native space. I guess that would be the way.
Right.
But
But I mean, is there just some other way that a method could know sort of,
no, the
no.
whole point of interceptors on the native side and proxies on the JavaScript side is that the property name is not known beforehand. It can be anything. I could say like abracadabra and maybe the interceptor does something, maybe it doesn't do anything. We don't know. But the point is you can pass anything to it. And so essentially the object has no properties and it has all possible properties at the same time.
Right.
That's like a genuine sort of atomic API that cannot be emulated using any other API as far as I know.
So then how are they able to do this in NAND using this little snippet here? I'm
Yeah,
not familiar.
Nan is using interceptors, so technically, because Nan is just kind of exposing interceptors from object
Yeah.
template.
Yeah,
I see.
and it doesn't need to worry about other engines.
Aha. Okay, that all makes sense now, full circle.
So I was thinking about this topic, and I believe we can introduce new API which can be either implemented using through JS proxy. I'm sorry, not through the proxies, JavaScript proxies, or it can be implemented like through interceptors in V8.
I see.
The only question I had, like, then I was kind of looking into this stuff. Then you're looking at interceptors or proxies. They effectively, it's a lot of additional things. That my question was like, should we kind of try to limit it, just say like to property access to start with, or kind of expose like bigger surface? Like, how far we want to go like with this implementation?
What else? What is were you thinking besides property access?
Yeah, they have like if you look there, like pretty much they intercept like your prototype chain, like
Yeah, get
Oh, I see.
prototype of, set prototype, extensible, own property, define own property, has property, get set, all of those. Call, construct.
Oh, I see. I see.
get own properties, like
Yeah, there's a bunch of
or
stuff.
like get property descriptors, like it's like
Oh, I see. I see.
quite a few interesting things that I would propose just to do something very simple, like just to kind of simplify kind of property getters and setters. And
I think this will come down to whether you can uh still add stuff after the fact. Because if we make an API that is limited, then if you can add stuff after the fact, like for example, function template, once you instantiate it, that's it. You can't touch it anymore, right?
right.
So then that shapes the API. If we were to expose function template, that would shape the API because you can't just say, okay, new function template, and then function template set this, function template set that. You can't do that after the function is instantiated. Similarly, with interceptors, if you can do stuff after you've created it, then we can make the API sort of cumulative, and we don't need to worry about how much we expose the first time around. But if it's like function template, in that once it's created, that's it, it's frozen, and you have created it without those capabilities, that's it. It doesn't have those capabilities. You need to create another one if you want those capabilities. If it's like that, then any subsequent APIs we add would have to include the functionality of the earlier API, right? And then we add more and more and more powerful APIs instead of APIs which add the missing pieces to an existing call. And then you make 3, 4 calls and you pass the object around and it mutates the object repeatedly until you have the capabilities you want. So it's a matter of API design. I don't think either way is bad. Like even if we have redundancy because the earlier API didn't expose so much, so what? In the later implementation, we can probably just call the earlier API, and then before we return to the user, we do the rest to add the additional capabilities. But just coming to mind regarding interceptors is that this is like one of 2 ways this API can go in core, as far as I can tell.
I think extensible, it should be doable. Like if you look, for example, to JavaScript proxy objects, so yes, we need to supply some kind of object which has all the different hooks for intercepting different calls. But what we can do, we can maybe like have introduce like new node API types, and like this is our kind of proxy
Yeah.
entity, and we can just add to this proxy entity different things.
One interesting parallel to JavaScript. Let's say you store the object which has all the getter, setter, etc. You store that object in a variable, right? You pass the object to new proxy, and then afterwards you set the set method or you set the get prototype of method or whatever. That will no longer have effect, right? Or will it?
It will not. It will not. But the
Right.
thing, what we can have some kind of builder pattern, if you like. We actually have some kind of entity. We adding stuff, but then we instantiating it. Like we pretty much saying,
Yes. Okay.
but now
Okay.
we
Yeah.
created something out of it. So technically, it's like builder pattern. Like we can have
Yes. So like bracket, build, close bracket kind of thing.
right.
Yeah. Okay. And the things you can call between brackets for now, there are only few, but we will add more later.
Would it
Right.
be similar to how we do our instance class declarations? Is this how you're thinking of your?
It's possible to do it declaratively like that, and but then we kind of have to have like a we have to have like an enum of different things that the list of things you pass to the create instance can have, right? Like right now in Node.js API, it can have static methods, it can have static properties, and so forth,
Right.
right? In this and what we would do in that case would be like, okay, create a proxy for me. Let's just say we call it Node API create proxy, right? And then it accepts an array of descriptors, right? Each descriptor would have to have a field that is, the type of descriptor. And then we have an enum for values that are valid for that field. And then for starters, the enum only has like one possible value or two possible values. And later on, we add more values to the enum, which is backwards compatible and forwards compatible and all that, and ABI stable. And then we expand capabilities that way. And so, yes, it's still a builder pattern, but it's like in one function call. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. Yeah, we can do it that way.
Yeah, in this case, like more like transactional, right? We know that we don't do anything after that, and we can, yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. Actually, this might be better because this reinforces the transactional nature. Once that function call, like the Node API create proxy returns, that's it. The behavior of the proxy is set. So
Mhm.
doing it with an array of descriptors might be better.
Right. Yeah, okay. And I guess now we just need to figure out if it's worthwhile to do.
Okay, I can sketch some kind of draft, right? Like, and we can look on this stuff and say it's worth or not. Like,
Perfect.
Yeah.
okay.
It's good. It's good that it's part of the spec, and so the interceptor is really just a V8 optimization by them exposing it as a native API, and so it's not fundamental in the sense of JavaScript. It's fundamental only in the sense of V8, and that we need to cover this surface.
We just need to name it carefully. We should not name it like proxy. We should name it something else. So people will say it's not necessarily proxy. You can use proxy to implement it, but it's not proxy. It's more like
Yeah. Okay.
I actually like name interceptors. Like saying, technically, this already term used in V8, so technically V8 or Node developers will not have confusion about these interceptors, and we know in the underlying implementation will be interceptors, but we should show like we can implement somehow else in other kind of JavaScript
Yeah.
engines.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in the documentation we would maybe say that they are analogous to JavaScript proxies.
Right.
Just so we make that connection without being overly committed to it being a proxy.
Okay. And I guess another question, like, okay, probably let's start with this one because technically, question like, should we have like all or nothing? Like, should we say this is just interceptors, or we want to also somehow to combine it with our way we're creating objects today, so we can explicitly specify some properties and methods, and then intercept others, or just interceptors. Like you must choose your path. You either go your objects having been intercepted, or you can have like explicit definitions.
Yeah, I think that's the case, right? Like with a proxy object, if you like, let's say you create a proxy in JavaScript and then you say, my proxy dot ABC equals some function, right? That's gonna go through the interceptor like everything else, right?
Okay. Okay, like let's call it interceptors and make it look and feel like JavaScript proxies.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, so any other issues here that we should chat about before we move on to the node core? Okay, if not, I'm going to flip it over here. back and forth, no updates. It's just a week ago, maybe leave it open a little longer. Don't see any other new ones, any of these that we should dive into.
Yeah, I didn't make any progress with create buffer yet.
Okay. I guess if not, we can close out for this week then and give everybody a little bit of time back.
All right.
Okay,
Sounds good. Talk
thanks.
to you later.
As
See
I
you
mentioned,
again.
won't see you next week, but I'll see you in a
Yep.
couple weeks and catch up with
Yep.
you then. Thanks. Bye.
See you then. Bye.